So let us begin the lecture. Last lecture we were looking at what are called connected sets of R2 and R3, and we proved a theorem, namely if a vector field has the property that it is independent of, its line integral is independent of the path joining 2 points in the domain, and the domain is a open connected set, then it is conservative. Namely, then there is a vector, then there is a scalar field phi, say that its gradient is equal to f, right? So then f is equal to gradient of phi. So essentially the idea was that the connectedness gives you that at least there is one curve, one path which joins a point A with B, and the independence of the line integral gives you that you can always define it, is well defined if you fix one point end. So this is essentially that second part of fundamental theorem of calculus for one variable that you had, right? The first part said that if you integrate the derivative, you get the, you can integrate the derivative as the value difference between the values at the end points. That was the first one. So for line integrals, that gave us that if you integrate the gradient of a scalar field, then it is nothing but the values at the initial point, final point minus the value at the initial point. So this is the second part of that fundamental theorem of calculus. So if you combine these results, so recall that we defined conservative vector field to be a vector field which is the gradient of some scalar field, right? And then we proved that if something is conservative, then the line integral is independent of the path. So keep in mind, if conservative, then it is independent of the path joining the endpoints. And saying it is independent of the path joining the endpoints is same as saying that over every closed curve is integral is 0. So those two were equivalent. And in addition, now we have got a result that if the domain is also connected, right, and independence of path is there, that implies it is conservative. So now the cycle of arguments is complete. So now you can say if your domain is connected, then the following statements are equivalent, namely the vector field is conservative, its integral over every line integral is independent of the path joining the two endpoints, or third, that integral over every closed curve is equal to 0. So all three become equivalent to each other when the domain is a connected set. Right? But saying that conservative implies independence, that you don't require it to be connected. In that part you don't require connected. Only the converse part, saying if it is independent of the path joining 2 points, then it is conservative. For that part you require it to be connected. So let us just summarize. So in special case, when the domain is a connected set, then for a vector field f which is continuous, the following statements are equivalent, namely it is conservative. Okay, so that was the definition that we had taken, and that implies in general always that the line integral joining 2 points P and Q is independent of the path which joins P with Q, right? And the converse, this is equivalent to saying that integral over closed path is equal to 0, and this implies 1 only in the special case when it is connected. So in the case of it is connected, all three are going to be equivalent. Right, so proof we have already done it, so let us not waste time on that. Just now we're just rewriting those statements again. Okay, so let us not bother about the proof because we've already done it. It is just summarizing them together. Okay, so now let us come to in the beginning when we defined this gradient of a vector field, of a scalar field, then I defined what was called conservative also, right? The conservative, a vector field is conservative if it is the gradient of a scalar field, right? And a necessary condition that we said for a vector field to be conservative, if it is conservative, right, then it is a gradient of phi. But then what is the curl of that vector field? That will be 0, because curl of the gradient, that will be equal to 0. So for 3 dimensions, that is a necessary condition saying that conservative implies that the gradient is equal to 0. But the converse need not be always, pardon? Sorry, it is conservative means it is a gradient and hence curl will be equal to 0. But the converse of this statement is not always true, namely, for a vector field, curl equal to 0 need not imply it is conservative. So I would like to give an example for that. The example is quite simple actually. So look at the domain D, which is all points in space R3, okay? Say that the first two coordinates are always 0, okay? Actually I should, okay, this is not the domain one should be looking at. The complement of this actually we have to look at. Okay, let us look at this set D. What is the set D? That is 0, 0, R. That means what? It is Z-axis. So let us consider now the domain which is R3 minus the Z-axis. Okay. So let us look at, and on that let us look at the vector field fxyz, which is minus yi plus xj divided by x square plus y square. You want x and y both should not be equal to 0, right? That means you have to exclude from the domain, you have to exclude the z-axis. So here the domain is not D, it is D complement, you write, okay? Make a correction, the domain for this function is D complement. Is it okay? Clear? I want to consider this vector field. For this vector field the domain is the all points x, y and z, so that x and y, right, first pair is not equal to 0. So you have to exclude the z-axis from the domain. So look at the domain R3 minus the z-axis. Is that open? Is that an open set? Yes? Forgotten what was open, right? Open means given any point you should be able to draw a small ball around it, right? That is possible because if the point is not at z-axis, even if a very small distance away, you can have a small ball which is inside the domain again. And it is also a connected set, right? Minus the z-axis, given any 2 points, you can always connect those 2 points by a curve, right? So this is an open connected set. The domain of this is an open connected set, and this obviously is a continuously differentiable vector field. Let us compute its curl. Let us compute the curl of this vector field. There is no z component anyway, right? So what I have to verify for the curl, right? Third part will be 0. So only we have to look at the derivative of the first f1 with respect to y and f2 with respect to x. If these two are equal, then it is going to be a vector field whose curl is equal to 0. So let us verify. That is a simple thing to verify. This is f1, this is f2. So take the partial derivatives. One checks that the partial derivative of f1 with respect to y is this, which is same as partial derivative of f2 with respect to y. So that will imply for this vector field the curl is equal to 0. Now if this condition was sufficient to ensure that the vector field is conservative, then what we should have? Then it should imply that its integral, right, over any line, over a curve depends only upon the initial point and the final point, or every closed curve it should be equal to 0. Let us compute the line integral of this over the closed curve, which is a unit circle, the boundary of the unit circle, right? So that is x square plus y square equal to 1. So you can give a parameterization for that. X is equal to cos theta, y is equal to sin theta. So what will be the line integral of f over this? Keep in mind f was equal to minus yi plus xj divided by x square plus y square, plus the denominator x square plus y square will be equal to 1 in terms of theta, right? So minus yi, okay? So that is, just compute that f dot dr. So that is equal to, this is f, right? Later in terms of the components, right? Dot dr d theta 0 to 2 pi over the circle, right? This is the value of the vector field. Evaluate f r theta dr by d theta into d theta. So once you now multiply and compute, this comes out to be equal to 2 pi, which is not equal to 0. So that shows that the curl of a vector field may be equal to 0. Domain is a connected set. Still, the line integral is not independent of the path joining. We have got a closed curve whose line integral is not equal to 0. That means saying that the curl is equal to 0 even for open connected sets is not sufficient to ensure that the vector field will be conservative. Right? In fact, here in this case, let us, you can modify this example where I have taken theta from 0 to 2 pi. Supposing you take theta from 0 to 4 pi, then what will be the curve? That will be going around the circle twice. Right? Path is same, but the curve has changed. So what will be the line integral? It will be 0 to 4 pi now. So value will be 4 pi. Right? You can go n number of times and the integral will be equal to n pi. Right? So different closed curves have different values, and this has a very great significance. It is essentially, you can see that the number of times I am going, that number is appearing here. Right? If I go n times around that point circle, that dot, right, which is a singular point for the function is not defined at the origin, right? So if I go around that once, the answer is 2 pi, twice the answer is 2 pi, go around n times, the answer is n pi. So that line integral divided by 2 pi normally gives what is called the winding number of a curve. So there is some geometry hidden in it, which probably some of you will see who do complex analysis course. Those who are doing computer science and electrical engineering probably will do a course on complex analysis later on. There it will come back to you. Okay, winding number for a curve. So it has geometric significance later on. So one would like to know, can we say there is something else on the domain which condition we should put so that curl equal to 0 becomes a condition which is also sufficient? For an open connected set, it is not sufficient. We have just now seen an example. Can we put some extra condition which will ensure it? And that extra condition, yes, it is possible. So I would like to describe that extra condition. That extra condition is what is called simple connectedness of a domain. So let us try to understand what is this concept of simple connected sets. Connected was any two points we are able to join by a path. Right? Simple connected, we will define it separately for R2 and separately for R3 just to understand it. In R2 a set is called simply connected. If you take a simple closed curve in that domain, right, then it will enclose some portion of the region of R2, right? Then we want to say that whatever is inside, that is also part of the set D. Right? There is no point which is outside D which is inside. So a simple closed curve does not include a point which is from outside D. So take a set D, take any simple closed curve in that domain, then all the points inside it should also be part of the domain. Right? So every simple closed curve should have that property. Then that set is called simply connected. Analytically, makes it clear what we are saying? Yes? Let me just draw a picture. So this is R2. Let us look at R2 itself. Is it simply connected? Yes. Obviously, because if I take any simple closed curve, right, all the points inside are part of the domain. Here D is equal to R2. Right? Now let me modify this. Let me look at. This is something similar to a disk, right? So if I take a open disk, that is also simply connected, right? So domain is D, which is equal to a ball at some point, say centered at some point P of radius delta. So at P radius delta. That is simply connected, because if I take any simple closed curve inside that ball, right, all the points which are inside the simple closed curve are also inside the ball. Right? So that is also simply connected. Now let me modify that ball. Let us take the annulus ring. Okay? So the shaded portion is my domain D now. Shaded portion is the domain D, the annulus region. Is it simply connected? It is not, because I can produce a simple closed curve. Okay, so let us say like this is a simple closed curve inside the domain, but if I look at the points inside, there are points which are not inside the domain, so it encloses points which are outside the domain. So this is annulus region is not simply connected. For example, from the whole of plane, let me remove only one point origin. From R2, let us remove only one point, the origin. Does it remain simply connected? Again not. It is something like annulus only. Right? I can have a closed curve which encloses the origin. So I have got a closed curve, at least one closed curve which encloses the origin which is not part of the domain. So that is not simply connected. But keep in mind, this annulus region is connected. Annulus region is connected. R2 minus origin is connected. Right? So it is something which is stronger than, you can see it is something stronger than saying it is connected. Right? So this is what we mean by saying something is simply connected in the plane. So in a sense, the sets which are simply connected in plane are sets without any holes inside it, right? There should not be something removed from inside them. They are sets without holes. So just now I drew that example. So this is simply connected, this is simply connected, this is simply connected, but the annulus region, that is not simply connected, or R2 minus the point is not simply connected. Okay? So in plane it is clear what is simply connected. Essentially, geometrically, it are the subsets which do not have any holes inside it. Mathematically saying that every simple closed curve in the domain D encloses points which are, all the points enclosed by it are also part of D. It does not enclose any point which is outside D. Let us look at definition in R3. So this is R2. R2 minus is not simply connected. Let us look at a set in R3. We want to define what is a set in R3 which is simply connected. We are going to say that a set in R3 is simply connected. Again, you take any simple closed curve in that domain D, right? We want this should be the boundary of a surface in R3. You take any simple closed curve in R3, right? We want to say that there exists a surface which is inside the domain. The surface should be completely inside the domain whose boundary is this simple closed curve. Is it clear what we are saying? For example, in R3, take the set R3 itself. Let us try to see whether it is simply connected or not. Take any simple closed curve in R3, right? You can always find a surface whose boundary is this, right? You can fill up inside of this by a surface. May not be a plane surface, but some other surface, right? There exists a surface in R3 which is completely in R3 whose boundary is this simple closed curve, and that should happen for every simple closed curve in the domain. Is it okay? Let us look at a comparison with R2. In R2, we saw that the annulus region was not simply connected. What will be the corresponding object in R3? Shell. Meaning what? The region enclosed between two spheres, right? A smaller sphere and a bigger sphere, and the region in between those two spheres we like to call it annular region in R3. Is it simply connected? Think again now. Is the annulus region in R3 simply connected? What is the definition? Give me a simple closed curve inside the domain, which is the annulus portion. Can I find a surface for which this is the boundary? Try to imagine closed curves in that annulus portion, any type of closed curve, and try to see whether you can find a surface whose boundary is that. Everybody try to visualize it, because don't take my answer as yes or no. This is where individually you have to visualize and see, because we are giving a geometric definition. In R3, take the region between two concentric spheres, the region enclosed between two concentric spheres. Take a simple closed curve inside that concentric sphere, right? Can you visualize a surface whose boundary is that or not? I want everybody, not only the middle portion, to say yes. At this side also to yes, the last person. Yes? Do you think it is true? Yes? I am not threatening you that if you say yes, I will do something. I am just asking. Try to see your answer or try to make a guess yourself. In 3 dimensions, it is slightly difficult to visualize things, but try to visualize concentric spheres and try to visualize. So what kind of, say in concentric spheres, let us try to see. You may try to visualize a curve, right, which is sort of a planar kind of thing, sort of, right? But there you can easily see that there is a surface whose boundary is this. You may think that let us go around that inner sphere and take a closed curve. But that also there is a surface which is going outside that, right, smaller sphere, but inside the bigger sphere. Essentially, giving a closed curve anywhere in that, you can just sort of imagine it kind of a thread. A simple closed curve is a thread. Imagine that. You can just pull that inside that annular region and bring it somewhere like a horizontal kind of thing, essentially. Can you visualize that? And then you can see there is a surface for which this is a boundary. At least that much you can visualize or not. In an annulus portion, right, you are given a simple closed curve, right? Imagine it is like a thread which you can pull out and take it out kind of thing, right? You can shift it anywhere. Keeping it a simple closed curve, you can shift it anywhere in the annulus portion, right? You can try to sort of flatten it out kind of thing. Maybe you just shrink it a bit and flatten it out, right? When you want to go back, you just enlarge it and go back. That will be the surface. So what I am saying is, for a annulus region in R3, given any simple closed curve, there will always be a surface whose boundary is this simple closed curve. That is true. Right? I am not giving you a mathematical proof of that, because that requires a difficult thing. But at least if heuristically, geometrically you are convinced of that, then I will be happy. In plane, you cannot do that because you have to cross the origin. Right? Any surface, if you want to give, say in the plane, let us try to apply this definition in the plane, that annulus kind of region. Right? There, if you are given a closed curve, the only possible surface is the planar surfaces only. Right? There you have to cross the origin. You cannot be inside the region and have a surface whose boundary will be that simple closed curve. But when another dimension is possible, you can slide over that portion which is hollow. Right? You can have a surface which is going around that hollow portion, right? Is it okay? Okay. So the idea is that in R3, this region, annulus region, okay, is a simply connected set. R3 itself is simply connected anyway. Let me give you an example of a surface which is not simply connected. That will probably help you to visualize what is going wrong. Right? That's what I said always. If you have 2 examples of something which is true, at least have 1 example where this thing is not true, because that will help you to visualize what is truth. Right? Look at the cycle tube. Look at your cycle tube. Okay? It is called torus. Right? The inside of the cycle tube. That is a region in R3. Do you think that is simply connected? If you say yes, then you have to visualize and try to say that every simple closed curve will be the boundary of a surface. If you are saying no, then at least you have to produce one simple closed curve for which you cannot find a surface whose boundary will be this simple closed curve. Right? In the cycle tube, let us go around that bigger circle. Inside the tube, draw a circle. Right? Imagine a thread which is going inside the cycle tube, which is a circle. Right? So for that simple closed curve, do you think you can find a surface whose boundary is that curve? In the cycle tube, right? What is cycle tube? Can you visualize how do you generate a cycle tube? We have seen its surfaces of revolution when we did R1. You take a circular disc, right? A circle, and rotate it. Rotate it around y-axis, say. Okay? That will give you a cycle tube. Now look at the center of that circle which you are rotating. What will that trace out? That will trace out a curve which is completely inside the cycle tube. For that curve, do you think there is a surface in the cycle tube whose boundary is that simple closed curve? You will not be able to find. Yes? So that is something similar to the annulus region in R2. R2, the annulus region was not simply connected. A more perfect generalization of that is a cycle tube. Okay? So torus is not simply connected. annulus region, right? The way we think that between two concentric spheres, that is simply connected, right? So R2 and R3, I have tried to give you geometric definitions of what is simply connected. There is a very rigorous definition of simply connected possible, which works in any dimension. Let me just give you that definition, and then you will realize that why geometric definition is slightly easier to understand. But of course, proofs, anything you want to prove, right? Proving that the cycle tube is not, that is a difficult job mathematically, right? Geometrically, you can just visualize that it is not. Consider a simple closed curve in any domain D. In R2 or R3 does not matter. Okay? The basic idea is, imagine that simple closed curve that you can shrink that curve if required. You can always shrink that curve. Okay? And supposing every simple closed curve in the domain, you can shrink it to a single point. Our domain has that property that every simple closed curve can be shrunk to a single point. How do I visualize that shrinking? And that shrinking should be in a continuous fashion. So imagine that simple closed curve is made of thread, and at the one end of the thread, right, one end of the thread you are fixed, and the other thread you are able to pull it, kind of thing. Then the whole thing will shrink, right? The closed curve will continuously shrink as you continuously pull. The curve will continuously shrink, right? It will come to that point which you are holding, right? That is called continuous shrinking of a curve, or continuous deformation of a closed curve to a single point. Okay. Now take this definition of shrinking of a continuous simple closed curve to a point and apply this to R2. Right? Take the annulus region in R2. Take that circle which is going around the origin. That is a thread. Right? Can you shrink it to a point in the domain? Because always whenever you shrink, you will have to cross through the origin. Now imagine the same thing in R3. Take a simple closed curve in R3 which is a thread now. Okay, wherever it is, you can always pull it because you don't have to cross that hollow portion. It will slide over that inner surface. It will slide over and become a small one point, right? So a simple closed curve in R3, a simply connected set in R2 or R3 is a set, so that every simple closed curve can be shrunk to a point continuously. That is a rigorous mathematical definition of what is called simply connected, but we will not be using that definition. Okay, we will be using only the properties. Namely, in R2, a set is simply connected means if I take the simple closed curve, all the points inside are also inside D. It does not enclose any point outside D. And in R3, a set is called simply connected if what should happen? Given any simple closed curve, I can find a surface inside the domain whose boundary is this simple closed curve. Understood that thing? That much is all we will require for our purpose. Those of you who are mathematically inclined, and probably some of you in fourth year may take a course in mathematics, like as an elective, take a course in topology. These things are taught in a course in topology. Okay, shrinking of curves, taking two surfaces, putting them together, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is a different subject called topology. And by the way, you will be surprised. This concept of simply connected is like a Hindu god, which has many avatars. Right? Like we say, Krishna is avatar of Rama, and Rama was avatar of. All are same gods, but they are different. Right? Appearances of the same thing. Simply connectedness at least has got 23 definitions, equivalent versions of it. Different versions, right? Different avatars. Like if this happens, then this is equivalent to saying this happens, equivalent to saying this happens, equivalent to saying that. About 27 conditions are possible, ways of describing what is simply connected. Right? So let us not bother too much about that. For us, let us give a simple idea for simply connected, namely in R2. Every simple closed curve in the domain will enclose points only of the domain, and in R3, every simple closed curve is the boundary of a surface. Okay, in the domain. So that is the definition for simple connectedness we will take. Okay, so more rigorously mathematical definition I gave you. we'll prove probably in the last 2 or 3 lectures of this course that this condition in a simply connected domain, if curl of a vector field is 0, then it is also conservative. So that was the main idea of bringing that simple connectedness. Namely, this theorem is true, a sufficient condition for a field to be simply conservative. If the curl of a vector field is 0 and if the domain is simply connected, connected is not enough. We have already given example. So if the domain is simply connected and curl is 0, that is sufficient to say that the vector field is conservative. So the converse is true only under the strong condition of simple. This theorem at this stage will not prove it, and because we are dealing with the conservative and so on, I am stating this definition. In the last few lectures of the course, we will prove what is called Stokes theorem. As a consequence of that theorem, we will deduce this theorem as a corollary of that. So we will do it in the end. But now let us come back to our idea. Saying a vector field is conservative, why we are spending so much of time and energy on looking at conservative vector fields, right? The biggest advantage is, as I said, that the computation of work done, right? The computation of the line integral does not depend upon the path you choose, only it depends on the points from where it starts, where it ends, right? You may be given a very complicated path, but if you know the vector field is conservative, you can just take a straight line joining them, right? And that is a very simple kind of nice path, and computation becomes very simple, right? So that is the advantage of saying something is conservative. And so one would like to sort of find ways of describing when can I say something is conservative. Of course, definition is there. It should be gradient of something. But can I say, I can find a wide class of functions for which I can say, yes, surely these kind of functions will be conservative. So I want to give you one example which you have all come across, which we had described also earlier. So the one advantage is you can always select a nice curve joining the initial point with the final point. So let us look at this example. Let us call a vector field to be a radial vector field. Vector field to be radial if it depends only on how much it is away from origin. Its value depends only at a point x, y, z. Its value depends only how much it is away. It does not depend on which direction the point is, right? So that means on a circle of distance r, the values will be all same. For example, your gravitational force field, force of attraction between two bodies, one is fixed, every other body is attracted towards the center. That depends only upon the distance, right? Such things are called radial vector fields. Okay, so plus zk divided by r to the power 3 by 2. What is r? That is the distance position vector, distance of the position vector. This is a radial. So anything. So in general, it will be a function of the distance, a scalar valued function, f of r, a function times the position, right? So for example, here it is f of r is 1 over r to the power 3 by 2 into the position vector r. Okay? So this is one example of that. So assume your, and actually one can see very easily that this is a conservative vector field. This vector field is conservative. This, you can easily check, find out, okay, the corresponding things. But let us try to prove not only this vector field, every radial vector field is conservative. So we are going to prove a fact that every radial vector field is conservative. That means what? I should be able to produce a scalar field phi whose gradient is equal to this vector field, radial vector field, right? So let us write. So this radial vector field is frxi, fryj plus frzk. Now I am going to do magic, then I will tell you what is a magic. It's like a magician doing a magic show. Suddenly out of a hat produces a rabbit, right? And everybody says, very happy, something funny has happened, very interesting, strange. So let me take this function. Okay? Now this is a rabbit out of the hat. Let me consider this function phi x, y, z. T times ft. Ft is the given function, which is a radial, right? That function which was appearing in the radial part. Dt. From some point t0 to r. Here is the one function, right? This f x, y, z. Where is x, y, z on the right hand side? That is hidden in this r. R is the distance. right? So this r is a function of x, y, z. So this is a composite function. Okay? So let us define phi to be this. And verify this is a required potential for that vector, radial vector field. Okay? I am just verifying the answer. I have already given the answer. Okay? Let us verify whether it is correct or not first of all. So when you differentiate what is phi with respect to x, if this is going to be the gradient of a vector field, that f, then the first derivative, partial derivative of phi with respect to x must be the first component. What was the first component? Fr into x. Second component, partial derivative of this with respect to y should be equal to fr into y, and similarly the third one. So differentiate this is a differentiable function of, right, x. This is a differentiable function. What is the derivative of this with respect to x? R fr into partial derivative of r with respect to x by chain rule, because r is a function of three variables x, y, z. So let us differentiate. Okay, so r fr partial derivative, but my claim is this is nothing but frx. Why? I have to only compute what is partial derivative of r with respect to x. I know what is r, so compute that. You will just simply see that it is x by r. And similarly the other two, the derivative of this with respect to y will be fry, and with respect to z is that. Right? So in the exam if it comes, right, show that this is conservative. If you write this and verify, no mark will be deducted. That you are intelligent enough to guess an answer somehow and verify that this is an answer. Right? No mark will be deducted. But of course the mystery is how to guess. How do you guess this answer? Given that vector field which is radial, how do I think of this function at all? Right? That is what is problem solving. How do I think a possible candidate for phi? What could be a formula for phi? Normally in mathematics the answer lies in, right, how to start, the answer lies in the answer itself. What you want to prove? You want to prove f is conservative. Right? Capital F, that radial vector field is conservative. So let us assume for the time being we are able to prove it. Right? If it is true, then I should have phi x is equal to this. Right? Then I should have, if my claim is going to be true, then that required phi, I already have an answer with me, a candidate with me. Its phi x should look like this, phi y should look like this, phi z should look like this. Now from here I can make a guess what should be phi and verify. See, that is what all the people who propose theories do. They look at examples, look at particular cases, right? Look at what is happening. If that is true, then what is happening, and then propose this should be now the required theory, or this should be the theorem, that should be the answer. And now you verify according to your rigor, according to. So let us assume. So that is what normally is done in these kind of things. Okay, you want to check, you want to find whether phi is conservative or not. If you can say that its curl is not equal to 0, then it is not going to be conservative. That because that was a necessary condition. F conservative implies, right, curl is equal to 0, irrespective of the domain. So showing it is not conservative is easy because you have to just compute the curl and verify that it is not equal to 0. But supposing curl of f comes out to be 0, and still you want to, now you are in a dilemma. It may be conservative, it may not be conservative. It depends upon the domain, whether it is simply connected or not. Right? Then your possible effort should be try to construct a function phi whose gradient is equal to this vector field f. Right? And how to construct that phi, the hint lies of, because if it is going to be conservative, those three equations are going to be satisfied. The partial derivative with respect to x of the potential must be equal to the first component of the vector field, similarly second, and similarly the third. So if these three conditions are going to be satisfied, if phi x is going to be equal to this, now that gives you what should be phi. You can integrate with respect to x to get back phi. Right? You can just integrate with respect to x. That's it, this is a possible candidate. Now you can see there is no mystery. Once you know phi x is equal to this. If phi x, the derivative of a function phi with respect to x is equal to this, right? This is one possible candidate for that. I am not saying this is the only one, because there could be many functions whose partial derivative is equal to this, because you are only integrating with respect to, keep in mind, you will be integrating only with respect to x. What about the y and z variables? They may contribute something in the integral, right, plus something which depends on y and z, but one possibility is that probably they don't contribute anything. We will be lucky. So let us try that. The obvious example, obvious choice, and that works in this case. You got the idea what I am saying? To find for a vector field f a potential phi, right? If you think yes there is going to be one, then the best method is try to solve these three equations. Phi x is equal to f1, phi y is equal to f2, phi z is equal to f3. These three equations should give you a hint what should be the choice for phi. And in this case, this works at the first shot itself, right? If I take this without any components, then this gives me the right answer. So this is how you will guess, right? That is how one guesses the thing. So this is what I have written. So so what we have shown is every radial vector field is conservative. How did we guess it? So as I just said now, if you want to say that that is true, then phi x must be this, phi y must be this, phi z must be this. That implies phi x is equal to this, and that gives you a hint. Yes, phi should be defined that way. And now let us check. Don't leave your answer like this, that this phi is the required one. You are only making a guess because you assume your f is, capital F is conservative. If it is conservative, these equations will be true, and hence my guess is this. If you leave up to here, probably no mark will be given because it is just a guesswork. You have not substantiated your guesswork with claim, right? Now with this, verify those three equations are satisfied actually. Once you made a guess, check back. Yes, its gradient is equal to the required one. That is a complete solution. Okay? So let us look at one more example of similar type which helps me to, so let us look at fx, yz to be this expression where this is f1, I, f2j, f3k, right? I want to check without bothering, it is defined for all x, y and z, right? So our domain is going to be R3. So that is not, it is simply connected in all three. So I just want to, one way of checking that is conservative or not, you find its curl, right, and check that comes out to be 0. But if you want to find the potential also, checking it is conservative will not be a problem. Probably saying that the curl is equal to 0 and domain is simply connected. But if I want to find that potential function also, then I have to do some work now, right? So the idea lies in the what we said earlier. If this is going to be conservative, then this must be equal to gradient of a function phi. That means what? Partial derivative of phi with respect to x must be equal to f1. Partial derivative with respect to y must be this. Partial derivative with respect to z must be this 3. So let us write those. Right. So this is the first one. Partial derivative of phi with respect to x is this one. Right. Now from here itself I can try to reconstruct phi by integrating both sides with respect to x. So when I integrate, I will get a possible choice for phi to be phi is equal to integral of this thing plus I should write to be a general solution a function which depends upon y and z, which is independent of, as far as x is concerned, that is a constant, right? So a function of y and z. So let us integrate, okay, and this is the second equation, that is the third equation. So integrate the first one, and that gives me that this plus alpha yz, right, where this is the function which depends on y and z alone. Now I have gotten this, but my saying it is conservative says that this equation 2 must be satisfied. Partial derivative with respect to y must be equal to that. So let us differentiate this and put it equal to that, satisfy that equation 2. Okay? Oh gosh. Okay. So this is my possible candidate for phi. Take partial derivative with respect to y. Here is another equation which says partial derivative with respect to y must be this. Equate the two. That will give you possible candidate for alpha yz. Okay, so let us equate, find partial derivative and equate the two, and that gives me, right, this is partial derivative is equal to this, so that gives me that must be equal to 0, right, because this is same, right, there was a derivative, this derivative must be equal to 0. So this derivative with respect to y is equal to 0. that gives me information. That says this function depends only upon z, it does not depend on y. So I can replace alpha yz by a function purely depending upon z. So I have improved my estimate for phi, my choice for phi. So phi x yz must be equal to this thing plus, instead of alpha yz, it is just a function of. Now I will use my third equation, because if this is phi, I already know the partial derivative with respect to z. So equate the two, that will tell me what should be the function beta z with respect to z. So that is step by step evaluating using all the data that says it should be 0. So it must be a constant which does not depend on x, y or z. So you can see that is not only one function phi which is the gradient of the scalar field, there are a family of it, right? You can choose c to be equal to 0. So that will give you one particular choice. Derivative, right? Antiderivative always has a constant c involved in it. So that is same thing here. For a function phi, gradient phi to be equal to f. So phi plus a constant also will be a gradient potential function for that. Okay. So this is the method of finding if you believe that your vector field is going to be conservative. Then you have to solve these three equations step by step. So once we have gotten this function phi, right, my job is not over. Because this is on the guesswork, we assume it is conservative. Now I will start with this. So let us take this phi. Now I verify. If somehow you are intelligent enough to guess this straight away, that is a different story. Okay, then you just verify that there is a required function. Right? Now I will verify that the gradient of this is equal to f. That has to be written. Okay. So verify that. So that is a conservative. So that is the advantage of having something which is conservative. Namely, a conservative vector field allows you to compute, right, the line integral without bothering about the curve joining the 2 points. And checking something is conservative. One class of functions is radial functions. They are always conservative. Okay. And if you believe a vector field is conservative, a way of analyzing, checking whether a function phi will exist or not is try to construct that phi step by step. Assume it exists. If you are able to get it, that phi, and verify yes, gradient of phi is equal to f, then your vector field is conservative and you have also found a potential function for it.
So in this original process, we have used the fact that the components are partial derivatives of the potential.
Partial derivatives?
For finding out the potential.
Yes, that's what I said. To guess what is the answer, you start it is yes, answer is yes.
So we use the fact that they are partial derivatives. So the
right.
thing we get at the end will satisfy this del of phi z.
Yeah, but you verify that you have not made any mistake in computation. Right? That is actually the case. Right? It's like verifying the answer back. And we want you to verify. Yes? Because always one has to be sure that if we assume something and proceed, right? For example, in that thing also, see, I will strongly say in that example, when curl was equal to 0 but it was not conservative. Just now we gave an example that minus yi plus xj divided by that. Apply the same process there and see what goes wrong. There you know the curl is 0. Let us not bother about simple connectedness or anything. Now assume this is going to be conservative. Can you construct phi for that? Do it. Then you will realize what is the difficulty involved. Right? Those of you who would like that vector field fxyz is equal to minus yi plus xj divided by x square plus y square. Right? We showed that for that curl is equal to 0. Question, is it conservative? We have given a proof saying it is no. Right? By integrating it over a closed curve, and we showed that the integral comes out to be 2 pi, not equal to 0. So we know the answer, it is not conservative. Now if I want to apply this method, what goes wrong? Where are we going wrong? There also, you can assume it is conservative, you can find partial derivative, try to integrate and see where is the problem coming. Right? That will help you to. So that's what I am saying, always saying that this is the answer. Okay, is not because you might have made some assumption somewhere which is not true probably.
So,
right? Yes?
So that alpha yz, if we take the first del phi by del x, suppose that it is something, you integrate it with respect to x, and then you add some function of y and z so that, and you check with other two equations. that if the function, if the field is conservative, then always that function has come out to be constant, or might come out from some function?
I can't say for all functions what will come out to be, then there would have been a theorem anyway. If something is true for all, then I can state that it has a theorem, right? But there is no such theorem. It's only a method. See, this is only a heuristic method of saying it. Because in this particular case, what is happening is, when you take the partial derivative with respect to x, phi x is equal to something. When you want to integrate, naturally, you will write the most possible general solution. Phi to be equal to integral of that thing plus something which does not depend on x, because you are integrating with respect to x. And you are trying to construct a function of 3 variables. So natural thing is, put something which depends maybe on y and z. Right? I can't say always it will not depend upon. You can make that choice and you may get an answer which may not give you back. Again the same problem what he is talking about. You may say this choice does not depend on y and z. You take it equal to 0 or a constant. Right? And say that is, but if you are able to verify back, then you have hit a jackpot. Right? At the first stage itself your guess is correct. Fine. No problem. But verify. Right? That all the other 2 equations are also satisfied. Then there is nothing wrong with it. Right? Okay. So this is what line integral we have defined to be, and what is the use of line integral. Okay. Line integral is something about a curve, okay, integrating around a curve. Let us take a special case when your curve is a plane curve. Okay, your curve is a plane curve, and let us assume it is a simple closed curve. So line integral is going to be integral of a vector field f over a simple closed curve in the plane. But that plane encloses a region, right? And that vector field on x and y, right, is a function of 2 variables. So a natural question arises, is this related, is the line integral over closed curves in the plane, is it in any way related with the double integral in plane? Right? There is another concept of double integral with respect to x and y that we have done for functions of 2 variables. Are these 2 related in any way or not? And there is a very important theorem called Green's theorem, which says that the line integral is related to the double integral. In what way? That is what we want to describe next. The relation between the line integral and the double integral. And the advantage of Green's theorem is, of course, there are many physical applications of what is called Green's theorem, but it relates line integral with a double integral. So sometimes the line integral can be computed by converting it into a double integral, which is easier to compute. So to describe that theorem, at least, let us start if you recall, we have double integral, something called integrals domains of type 1 and type 2. Let us just recall that. Type 1 was a domain D in R2 is called type 1. You can say x lies between A and B and y lies between 2 functions of y. And similarly domain of type 2. So we are going to look at such domains. Okay, this is type 1, which looks like this, x between A and B and y goes between some limits. And similarly type 2, I am just recalling, okay. So this is, sometimes one says vertically simple, okay. It goes from one curve to another. Similarly horizontally simple, you can describe. For such kind of a domain, how many boundaries are going to be possibly? Boundaries is a closed curve, right? But it's not everywhere. It may not be everywhere smooth. It may be piecewise smooth. But maximum number of pieces it can have is 4. A bottom at the top and 2 sides. There may not be 2 sides always, because this can join like this. The sides may vanish into one point, right? But the largest possible number of pieces it can have is 4. Similarly, of domain of type 2 will have 4 pieces. Okay, so this is what we are going to keep in mind when we state what is. So let me state Green's theorem. It says, supposing P and Q are continuously differentiable scalar fields in a domain. Okay, this is all to make that everything makes sense. The conditions P and Q are scalar fields which are continuously differentiable in a domain U. R is a simple region in R2. right? That's simple, vertically simple as well as horizontally simple, type 1 as well as type 2 region whose boundary is C, and all R and C together they lie inside that U, so that no problem of differentiability or anything is going to come. Okay. Then look at the vector field. So this is a line integral of a vector field. What is the vector field here? Pi plus Qj. So this is a line integral of a vector field. It says over the boundary C, okay, is going to be equal to the double integral over R, the region R, of this function, partial derivative of Q with respect to x minus partial derivative of P with respect to y dx dy. But keep in mind, line integral is always with respect to a orientation, right? Whether you go clockwise or you go anti-clockwise, a sign of difference will come. It says this theorem is true whenever C is given anti-clockwise orientation. Otherwise you get a negative sign. And what is anti-clockwise orientation? How do you decide something has got an anti-clockwise orientation? Can you always say that for a simple closed curve, what is the anti-clockwise orientation? For this curve, what is anti-clockwise orientation? This way or this way? Pardon? Yeah, I've given you the axis here. This is y, this is x. Pardon? Point of view. This is plane given to you. You are viewing it like this. Yeah, I'm looking at this, right? So you like to say this is anti-clockwise? If you are looking at the paper, right? Paper is on the table and you are looking at that. Is it okay? You like to say that is anti-clockwise? Sure. Now let me give you a curve, okay, and ask you what is the anti-clockwise orientation. I hope I can't draw that. Let me. It is a simple closed curve, right? It is a simple closed curve, very simple. So now, if you look at how I have drawn it, probably you will be able to say, but now which one, at this point, whether I should be going this way or this way? It's a problem always to decide for a simple closed curve also, what is clockwise, what is anti-clockwise.
Can you open it out?
Yes, that is one way, if you can do that. Yes, I agree. That is one way of. So let us assume that simple closed curves, you can always sort of untangle the spiral kind of thing and look at this way, right? A geometric way of describing would be, as you are moving along the curve, imagine yourself moving along the boundary of that field, okay, of that field meaning that agricultural field, okay, not the vector field. And moving along, then the region enclosed should be on your left side. That is a physical description, geometrical description of orientation. You are moving along the boundary, right? This is the direction you are moving. On your left is the region. Right hand side is the portion outside the region. That is one way of describing what is anti-clockwise orientation. Right? Mathematically it's not easy to describe what is clockwise, what is anti-clockwise. So we'll keep, our regions will not be that complicated like this kind of thing. But there is a problem, I just want to say that. So we are going to give anti-clockwise orientation. So this C is given counterclockwise or anti-clockwise orientation. Right? Then this equality holds. So what we'll do is, we'll prove this theorem, and the idea proof is very simple. This is a line integral. We'll give a parameterization of this, compute this and show it comes out to be equal to this. Okay, so let us stop.